Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm Jeff Howard, and this is going to be a fun and long introduction for this podcast because I have Josiah Polhemus with me. Hey, Josiah.
Hey, Jeff.
Great to see you.
Really good to see you and be here.
Yeah. So we met at Sherman Oaks Film Festival last year in 2025. But, I felt like I knew you before that. And now everyone listening is going to have to listen to my little introduction, which is back in 2022. So like 4 years ago, feels longer, but 4 years ago, your friend and someone I consider a friend or associate now, Dwayne Anderson, he came to Sherman Oaks Film Festival with the film 30 Meetings, 30 Days.
Yeah.
Won every award in sight. Like that,
So
that's
good.
such a great film.
Yeah.
Amazing film. And then he did the podcast. He was actually on Discover Indie Film podcast number 393 that came out in May 2023. And we had like really fun conversation. Yeah. And he said, hey, I would love it if you watch this feature I directed. I forget how many years previous he directed it. He made it with you. And that was Super Powerless. That was both starring you. You were the lead actor and also a co-producer. Mm-hmm. And so, 30 Meetings, 30 Days was so good. I just sat down with my wife. I forget if it was on a streaming service or YouTube or something.
We just put it up on YouTube.
It was on YouTube, exactly, yeah. So I actually pulled up the YouTube app on our Apple TV and sat down with my wife and we watched Super Powerless. Really enjoyed it. Thought it was great. Thought you gave a great performance.
Thank you.
And so when in 2025, Dwayne by the way, he doesn't get full, right? You and Dwayne co-directed.
Yes.
The Falling.
We directed The Falling, co-directing.
So another film from Dwayne comes, and it's starring the guy I saw in Super Powerless, who I thought was such a great actor. So, and then you co-directed, and then actually the two of you also co-produced with Peter Kangas.
Peter Kangas, yeah.
Kangas.
Yeah.
See, I never ask about. I check with your pronunciation.
Yeah, and I wrote the script too.
Yeah, and you wrote it. So there you go. So when you came to the festival, I was one of those people who probably talked to you like, okay, this guy's talking to me like he knows me, because I'd seen Super Powerless and of course seen The Falling like more than once. And by the way, I will also add that The Falling not only had its LA premiere at Sherman Oaks Film Festival in 2025, but took home the Filmmakers Award for Outstanding Originality, Short Film Horror. And I'll add, because you probably might not know this, the Filmmakers Awards are decided by the Filmmakers Board, which is a jury of alumni. So it's active filmmakers, it's people who are on the festival circuit, it's their opinion of our official selections. So it's really an award from your peers. Your peers are like, man, that is one original film.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. We really appreciated the award too. We were so excited. And Peter's like, I gotta get this award. Anyway.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I know. It's one of these days. One of these days, we'll find we'll find a sponsor who's willing to like allow us to give away trophies. It breaks my heart, but we have a lot of awards. We have a lot of categories, so I think we would have to like cut out like a theater and a half rental if we. But yeah, I'm so glad you and your team got trophies for that award. Excellent.
Yeah, it's been really. It was so fun to go to the festival too, and I wanted to stay longer, but then we were in another festival that was like 2 days later in San Francisco. But I did get to meet just a few of the excellent and fun filmmakers, which is just amazing. It's always fun to meet new people and to have a festival like yours that is so gracious and treats us with, makes us feel like really special and I really like the films that I got to see.
Right, yeah, because did you have that thing where you came to that opening night gala and talked to some people and you're like, I want to see their film.
Yes,
I want to see their film.
Exactly.
And because I saw you in the audiences and I'm like, I always love to see when people are supporting their fellow filmmakers. Like, I just think it's so great.
I love it when there's a filmmaker and they're being so nice to you. And then they're like, yeah, I have a film here. And they're all sort of modest about it. And then it's like, oh, that was the one that won the best film of the entire festival. So I met a lot of filmmakers like that, where they're just so down to earth and easygoing, and they kind of know you're your pain and what you went through to make films, because it's not always easy.
I know you are compatriot. You all are in the foxhole together, for sure, right?
Exactly.
The indie filmmaking foxhole. And I mean, I always got to boast about Sherman. Our festivals, we're an experiment. We're like, okay, if you only show great films, if you truly just judge, if there's a locally made film that was like shot across the street from the theater and they had a cast of 47 and they're like, we want to sell 500 tickets to your festival. If it's not a good film, we'd rather show a great film from the other side of the world.
Yeah.
That audiences will be. So we only show good films. So that's kind of like a nice luxury, as I know, like everyone you met at the opening night gala actually had a great film.
Yeah, thank you. We've gotten, we're still doing the festival circuit, and it's really nice how people have responded to The Falling, and we're doing other projects too. So I'm excited because I feel that I don't think I necessarily expected that The Falling would necessarily appeal to everyone, because it's a little genre, sci-fi thriller thing. So, I didn't think necessarily that everyone would respond to it, but it seems to have universal appeal, in a lot of ways.
That's great. That's fantastic. I mean, and it's so well done.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, I really credit Dwayne's expertise helping us with that, because I was originally going to work with an actor who was going to play the role that I played. But that actor, it fell through. And so I had, originally when I write a part, I'm often just kind of casting myself in the role, just thinking like, well, who can I get for cheap, And
the answer is you are the cheapest actor you can find. Yes.
I'm the backup. And so I was like, oh, maybe I'll play the role. But then the minute I thought that, I was like, okay, I better, I don't want to be jumping back and forth, because that particular character in this film, it has, we had so much dialogue. And, that's as an actor writer, that's maybe your thing, is you will often write a lot of dialogue in a film. And I also think that in independent film, you don't get to have so many tricks, you don't have a huge budget. So I think you kind of have to lean into the character and story and the actors. So I often write a lot of dialogue in the films I do, because I'm knowing we have a limited budget, and we're just going to find someone who can deliver this. And if you're interested in the actor, then you're going to be interested in the film.
1,000%. I've even heard, I'm going to quote it wrong, but I've heard people say to me, the highest production value you can get for the least amount of money is great characters. Quality characters performed. I mean, I don't want to say that actors are free, but I do want to say that compared to, a massive action scene, watching real human beings talk to each other on screen, you can do that at the indie level and do it as well as anybody. Budget becomes irrelevant when it's quality performances and quality writing.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't do Children of Men, like a whole war going on, and and just have this huge, amazing shot going through that and all the different buildings and stuff, then you got to lean into having a good performance, some interesting dialogue, and an interesting plot or story. I think has to really carry it in a smaller film.
Yeah, and then and as co-directors, you and Dwayne did a lot visually with this one, for sure. To definitely make, I bet that surely, I'm going to assume that also helps it stand out on the festival circuit. Because there's some real creative directing in it.
Can I ask you what if you? I mean, I don't know when the last time you saw this, but do you remember a shot that stood out to you? Because I can talk about it if you want.
I actually think I'm thinking of The Falling.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right.
Well, okay.
The shots.
Yeah.
Because I guess, should we avoid spoilers? I guess, or.
Well, let's just say there's a shot. It's called The Falling, so you can assume that someone's going to fall somewhere.
Someone does fall.
Yeah.
But I guess I would say that often, especially, well, because I watch a lot of indie films as a juror, as a selection juror for the two festivals. And, a lot of times writers they'll paint themselves into a corner where you kind of do need it to pay off.
Yeah.
And the falling pays off. You know what I mean? And it also pays off visually. Like, it doesn't, whereas, at the indie level, a lot of times, like, you see someone write a story and they sort of might be backing themselves in a corner. They might have an idea to get out of it. Mm-hmm. And then, if you don't have the budget, you don't have the creativity to work within the means you've got, let's just say climaxes are often disappointing in indie film.
Yeah. I mean, I think we thought as filmmakers, and we had both made, quite a few films at this point. And I know that if you can have like just one really spectacular shot that you're willing to, pay a little bit for that shot, and if you write it well enough that people are going to be interested and maybe not even expect to get that's gold for you. Like, they're not expecting you to have like one kind of cool that looks more like a produced shot. And so we had access to a green screen. We had for that particular one, so the actor is in front of a green screen, like visually what I'm doing right now is holding my legs and my hands out and like like kicking them around, and so we had someone in front of a green screen doing that. Our main character, the actor James Mercer II, and so we knew we were going to get that shot. And then we had, because luckily Dwayne is a college professor of film, he's often finding these really up and coming great talent. And there was a guy who just he's like, I just saw this guy's visual effects trailer. He's probably looking for some work. Let's see if he'll do this for us. So he did. And his work is just fantastic in it.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's other VFX in there, right?
I had another film. I had a couple of like genre way back, Jeff, like 2003.
Was that a long time ago? I feel like
I know. For these guys, they're like, I wasn't even born.
Disclaimer: Josiah and I are pretty much the same age, so apologies to everyone if we slip into the 2003 wasn't long ago. Like, a lot of people weren't born yet.
But it was the time before like smartphones, and it was like, and we were using, video cameras, and anyway, I did an effect in there with eyes that was very effective, and it was just a small little thing. And I always think those are the kind of things you're looking for in independent film, like just a little bump of something that takes people out of the ordinary. Can be so effective. So I did something that worked in the eyes in that way back when film, and so I used it again in The Falling. So, and I had this idea, like, what if in the future, and you've kind of heard like Elon Musk and people talking about like, well, what if like they're trying to get us to be cyber. They want to have devices that are in our eyes.
Us,
they want to have things in our eyes. They want to have a computer in your mind. Like they're thinking of those kinds of things. And it's not to them. They don't think it's impossible. They are experimenting, I would imagine, with those things. So I always, with sci-fi, I love that because you can sort of explore those ideas. Like, well, what if they succeeded at that? Where does it go? So I just thought, like, well, what if this guy can just like, press this button on his forehead and just be like, okay, I'm in your head now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it works. Well, yeah. Excellent. Because I also consider it sci-fi myself.
Yeah.
And it's such a great genre to write for, huh? Because you can just take our world, but just make it a little different, and all of a sudden you've built a new world.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Star Trek thing where they kind of tried to imagine more of a utopian sci-fi. Now, I always go dark, Jeff. I always go dystopian because I just can't imagine that people with power are going to always do the right thing. But I like that you can, like for instance, you can, just like you can have any type of person in the future and they can be in any position and no one's going to question like, well, is that realistic? Or, that kind of thing. That you can see the sort of the best of humanity and then maybe that it goes awry, And that's the story I always like is like the fall, like I guess it all goes back to the Greek tragedies. Like, the Oedipus he saved us, he's on top, and then now he's down below anyone. So I always like that idea that you're starting with the ideal in sci-fi and then you show the flaws as a good story arc.
You obviously care a lot about story, and you obviously care a lot about surprising your audience too with a plot twist or two, because The Falling definitely has more than one turn where I think the audience is surprised. Oh, wait, oh.
Yeah, I like
which is wonderful.
I loved Twilight Zone. I like Black Mirror. I love those. They are, particularly Black Mirror, is so dark, but I love the twists that they do there. And so, I just wanted to sort of emulate that. And I have had people compare The Falling to a Black Mirror episode, which is a great, tribute.
The truth is that I feel like for a little while, especially when Black Mirror was like still actively coming out and we were holding screenings, as soon as I heard the word black, I wait, stop telling every sci-fi for like every sci-fi short we showed at the film festival for like 3 years. Someone would put their hand up and say, "Did you see the Black Mirror episode?" It's kind of like this. I'm like, please, they wrote this before that got released. Stop, but not that people were accusing them of, but now it's more of it is a compliment to say that people can see it in that Black Mirror universe in a way.
Well, I don't think you can write a story that hasn't already been done. I can point to like probably 100 different stories that tackle, people going into someone's mind in the future. Like there's Ursula K. Le Guin with Lathe of Heaven, and and there's Philip K. Dick, and these are authors whose movies Total Recall, and those are all dealing with the same subject matter I'm dealing with. My little twist for The Falling was this idea of like, what's therapy going to be like in the future? Like I said, Ursula K. Le Guin's dealing with that in the 70s. She's talking about, like therapy in the future. But I feel like that's a really good genre. And I think I thought that when the pandemic hit and suddenly people were doing online therapy, and that people who had never done therapy before were going to therapy because of the quarantine and the feelings that were coming up, I saw an opportunity to sort of explore this, like what's the future of this, or where does this go from here, and then the sort of Twilight Zone-y thing came into my head, like, oh, let's
right. So that was the genesis of the idea. Is you were thinking about future therapy, and how technology will affect it, because technology, that is something I was just talking with someone else the other day, which was, tech does invade every aspect of our lives at this point. There really isn't a part of our lives that isn't affected by it. So of course, therapy is affected by, will evolve with technology.
Yeah. And at the same time, as filmmakers, we're, Dwayne and I are very tied to like the past, and we've seen the technology change so dramatically in our lifetimes. And so we were doing a little tribute to like sort of 70s sci-fi. And then also, we like with AI coming in, like we believe in filmmakers and that humans have something to say. You can't just get everything from AI, at least at this point. And so, some of our shots, like some of the shots I'm kind of proud of is when we were going out exploring like possible places where we could do when the character's going into the mind. And I just knew of places around my house where I was like, oh, you might do this too. Or when you were doing films, Jeff, like where you walk around, you're like, oh, that would be a good place to do stuff. Like I used the Getty way back in the day. I mean, you could never do this now, but I was like, oh my God, that their tram looks so futuristic. So we shot a scene on the tram.
Right.
You know, just like
guerrilla style.
Guerrilla style. We used the Getty as the set, and you know, like that, like suddenly your production value looks like amazing because you're at the Getty, and then and you know, we had a shot of the tram on the going down the hill, and you know, it's all stuff that looks like old 70s sci-fi. So anyway, that's the kind of stuff I love putting in. So we were walking around my house in Northern California, and there's this really cool tunnel, you know, that's like built for, you know, water flow. And I was like, God, you know, when I looked through this, it's so cool. It reminds me of, you know, some old, you know, someone going through a portal. And so we just shot that. And then we just used all these shots from around my house, and those all made it into the film. And we were just doing that as a test. But all of those shots ended up being like sort of the way that we explained, like a guy kind of searching for someone's memory, and it kind of works, you know. And that's so old school is what I'm saying, is like it's so not AI, but I kind of love that stuff in our film.
Absolutely. In fact, it's I know what you're talking about, and it actually reminds me of like how many sci-fi movies I saw growing up where they use that wall at LAX airport, the tile wall with the multiple colors.
yeah.
Like I've seen, that's been the futuristic walkway. I even think it was in Logan's Run or something. But anyway, yeah, exactly. And I mean, really, that was such a great era. All right, so we've managed to go 20 minutes without me getting your origin story. So obviously I know you as an actor primarily, but now I know you know, but I know you wrote The Falling, and it's not your first script, and you've been producing. So, but when did you get the acting? Did you get the desire to act quite young?
So maybe you know this or not, but the co-director Dwayne and I grew up together as kids.
I did not know that.
Yeah, we were we were at the same elementary school, and Dwayne always tells the story like, hey, I'm Dwayne. Do you want to be friends? And I was like, okay. But he told me that the reason he wanted to be friends was because he saw me in the school play, and he thought I was really cool because I was in the school play, and so I got the acting bug so early. I mean, my sister is an actor. My older sister is an actor. My brother, we made a couple of films together. And he went to USC screenwriting program. He's a graduate of that program. And, you know, we were all, I think our family was just, it was actually respectable to be creative in our family. My dad was supported. It was supported. Yeah, my dad was a professor at Stanford, and my mom was a teacher, but also very creative too. So they just both really valued the arts, which is different for most people. But so we sort of thought like that was the pinnacle is to go into the arts. I don't think that as much now, but I think like, yeah, I mean, it's not been a bad life, but. So I would be in all the musicals that they put on. And then I kind of expanded, and Dwayne and I, one of the last things we did when we were kids was we would both act in these plays, and we both got into this production of the musical Oliver. And this was in San Jose. And that production starred some famous people, Tyne Daly and this actor, I mean, that's probably the more famous person. A guy named Nehemiah Persoff, who had been in Some Like It Hot, and then the guy who played Horseshack on Welcome Back, Kotter, which was the big show at the time. It was the biggest hit, and he was in the show playing the character of the Artful Dodger. And so that was one of the last things Dwayne and I did before we then kind of went to different schools, and then we saw each other later. But we got that experience, and you know, those kind of things stuck with me. And a lot of people from that era in my life, there was a children's theater in Palo Alto that a lot of people came out of, like the director of The Lion King, Rob Minkoff, was there, his brother was there, but he would sometimes be there, like drawing pictures and stuff, you know, like these kind of people. And then there's a friend named Andrew Durham, who just had a movie called Fairyland that came out last year that did really well. It was at Sundance, and these are like people that that just all had a similar bug. Like we really believe we were theater nerds, like we just loved being in that world. And so that was where I got the bug. And then I just thought I would give it up if I didn't get anywhere, but I kept getting things. So it lasted through college, and then I studied it in theater, and then I went to a grad program, the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco, and I was in their company for a year. And then I moved to LA, the big equalizer, where you're like nothing, like a dime a dozen actor, which was humbling after my little success.
Right. And with an MFA.
Yeah. I was like, I have an MFA. And everyone's like, who cares? And which is a good lesson, like because I do now believe like you could just you could just talk to someone on the street and they could be an amazing actor right away, or you could have the guy who's studied and he's like studied, and that person's a great actor too. But, it is equalizing, it's very democratic, someone can have it without anything or they can study and be good too.
It's almost a meritocracy. It's almost, but I would assume the person with MFA will have more range and more tools. But yeah, you're right. Like I have seen the occasional interview with an actor.
Yeah.
Well, actually I can only think of just Russell Crowe, but it's very funny because someone asked him like, who's been your most important acting teachers? And he said, well, I do the Crowe method, which is I've never taken a class and I'm just me.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is,
but he is himself in every film.
Right. I mean, like I could make that argument for a lot of the actors I love, they're just them in every part,
Yeah, they find a groove.
Yeah.
But also that's the commercial side of the film business, right? Is that once an actor gives them something that does well, they might say, okay, we want you to do that now for about 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad deal. I'm not going to criticize,
Yeah.
I think it was Patton Oswalt, the stand-up comedian, said, nobody has ever sold out unless they had something someone was willing to buy.
Oh God, I love him.
And he's another Bay Area person, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't at all know him, but I do remember seeing him do stand up at what is that club called? It's like a very tiny club on Fairfax that it's really well known. Like Tenacious D used to go there. I'm blanking on it. But
oh my God, I know it too. It's across the street from Cantor's.
Yeah. And it's so famous, but it's like, but it's so intimate. So you just see these, like you're like, oh my God, I'm like, 10 feet away from Patton Oswalt doing a set, just deciding like, it's going to come up and do this. So I saw him do that
walking
once.
Distance from there in like my late 20s, and I can't believe I can't remember the name. But yeah, a wonderful place to see comedy.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I wanted to mention that my wife, Amy, was also in that group of kids. We did plays when we were 12. And then, lo and behold, years later, you see this movie, Super Powerless, that Dwayne wrote and directed, and Amy and I starred in together. And, he kind of told our story in that. But yeah, I mean, it's, I was also going to say that as an actor who studied, the thing that they didn't teach you was like, now just be you, and it was so weird because I had to go through the opposite thing of like knowing how to play other characters, but not even being comfortable in my own skin, Jeff. Like I was like, oh my God, I don't even know how to be me talking in front of people. So I spent a lot of time just trying to like be Russell Crowe, like
right,
Crowe.
Right.
Like, I want to do the Crowe method, or I want to do the Polhemus method. Like who is Joe? Who's Josiah? So, what helped me with that a lot was doing improv. So I took a lot of improv classes and got involved with that group. And that was really helpful because, when you have no material to work with, dialogue, et cetera, it's sort of like, oh, what am I going to do? Who am I going to be? And so that was kind of like the first opportunity to kind of do that. And then I also was a teacher. I taught high school. I taught all levels of, as I was struggling actor, I, turned to my MFA to do teaching and then started getting into directing and doing more writing and stuff. But all of that was like the process of trying to like, who is this guy? I don't think I really figured that out until like maybe like 5 years ago.
For sure. Well, and was it stage directing or was it film, TV?
Both, but mostly stage directing at first. I directed plays. I was at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and they had these. They would hire people to direct their what's called their exam plays, where the students are sort of judged by their instructors, and so they would have these directors come in and do those. And it was for me, it was just great because I got all these opportunities to direct. I must have directed like 50 plays. And so by the time I got to the 50th, I was a pretty good director. And then when I turned to film, I felt like I was kind of ready for it. Especially if I was with friends and, just a more intimate setting of filmmaking.
Yeah, I say it all the time. The directors who have stage experience, not just actors, but I feel like directors who go from stage to screen have tools that those film people don't have, especially with the performances and the actors and the dialogue, because that live stage directing, I mean, instantaneously if it works or not. It's not like shooting something and finding out in the edit that you don't have what you were after. Like it's so immediate, and
Yeah, it's kind of a relief for actors who come from theater to film, because you're like, wait, I can do it again. There's another take, like it's not live. I get another shot at it. So for a lot of actors, and also it's broken up. You're like, oh, I'm only just doing this one scene. I don't have to
remember 2 hours of dialogue.
Yeah. So it can be quite a relief in that way. But what is often the case with theater actors, and many will say that, like I was thinking of Jack Lemmon. He was working with Billy Wilder, and he talked about how that he was doing his acting, and Billy Wilder kept saying to him, "Oh, do less," and then he's like, "Okay," and he's like, "How about that? Is that good?" And he's like, less," and he's like, "Oh, okay," and then he's like, "How about that? Is that good?" He's like, less. He's like, "Billy, I'm not doing anything." Yes. So that's the big lesson for theater actors is everything's, as like in the eyes. If it's a good story, the audience is putting the thoughts in the character's mind, because it's, if I'm just like, I think of Michael Caine. He had this famous acting video for a while where if you didn't know how to act in film, now just look up, at the sky and it'll look like you're thinking about something, and so it really works. Like if you just have like, oh, this is where I think, and on film it looks like you're the deepest, most intelligent person, and all you're doing is like, oh, look at the light, So it's just less is more, with the, I think, the film acting in that
for sure,
way.
yeah, because when you're on stage, the audience sees you from head to toe. They see your whole body, and you have to project. But I heard Jeff Daniels say that he always advises young actors, like, film acting is about film and TV. It's your face. It's literally your performance is in your face.
Yeah,
it's really about the close up.
Yeah, it just feels so silly to. I obviously like to talk about people I've worked with, but kind of embarrassing. It's my little ego coming out. But I worked with William Hurt. William Hurt, and the only reason I think of him is because I know they did a play together early in their careers, Jeff Daniels and William Hurt, and he was an amazing actor in film. I worked with him on stage, and I just feel like, those guys. My experience with him is he was famous at that time, and I think he wasn't used to being on stage as much anymore. So I found that he had to like be reminded to be more physical, be bigger, and he was used to a very intimate performance. And at that time, that's all I knew. I only knew theater performance. So, but the actors who do theater, they can be bigger. They're sometimes it's 1,000-seat theater, and so you're doing gesturing and you're using your voice more. You're using your big voice, that kind of thing.
And William Hurt was pretty, even for a screen actor. William Hurt was subtle.
That's right. That's right.
Obviously, I remember when he was almost the biggest star in Hollywood.
Yeah.
that little run he had, right, including broadcast news and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was the king of subtlety. He was
Right.
always underplaying
he was the best of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can imagine him being like, "Oh, I'm on stage. I guess I'm gonna have to not use my screen methods." Yeah.
Right.
Interesting. And feel free to name anybody. All right. So you come down to LA and you do, and you're teaching and.
Yeah, I would get parts every once in a while.
And were you writing? Were you writing for yourself at times, or not focused on that yet?
I always liked writing. I was part of a little theater company that's called Pacific Resonant Theater, and they had this really amazing thing where they have a lot of the acting ensembles have like a dues paying. You pay dues for a month that kind of supports the shows they're going to put on, and it's not much, and the resources you get and the connection to the other actors was fantastic, and so I took advantage of that because they said, well, if you want, you can put on a play here. We'll give you the space and we'll give you a small budget, and so I was like, oh my God, I wrote a play so I wrote a play and put it on there. I can't say it was a great play, but it was really exciting to have that, have that thrown at you as like, here you go. Cause that's hard. That kind of stuff is so hard, to get a space, to get a little budget, to get people to help you make it. And I kind of learned, I crafted being a decent writer from that. When I got really lucky I had a group of friends that were very talented guys who were mostly in film, and just a lot of guys from Santa Barbara. They went to Santa Barbara, and I got in with them in LA. We were friends, and we would play poker, and then we started like we should make little films for each other. So we decided to make these little films for each other, and I had this idea, and we had a little writing group, and we would get together. And I had this really interesting idea of like, oh, what if there's a guy who, it was called Pause. And I was like, what if there's a guy who's recording when he thinks he's on pause? And so everything you see is what he doesn't want you to see. And I was like, well, what would be the thing that would be the worst thing? I was like, okay, if you're like doing a ransom and you just want to have like, no, you don't want them to see your face. And so I played with this whole idea that we see the guys, they're talking about who they are, and they think it's on pause the whole time. And it turned out great. And I made it for like, $2 in my bedroom. But this is what taught me, like, and I had some good actors. I had a really compelling story and an idea, and it cost nothing. And it's super compelling. And then that won awards and got distributed. And I was like, oh my God, so that's when I kind of saw how you could.
Was that feature length or was it?
It was a short.
It was a short. Short that got distribution.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. It was this really cool fest called the Hollywood Scare Fest. I don't think it exists anymore, but the people behind it were very cool. It was the guy who ran a video store that was very famous. I can't remember any name of things, but it's like one of the most, not Vidiot's, but it was like the other famous video store go-to place in Hollywood that people would go to. And the guy who ran it started this fest. And I had a friend who was involved with looking for material. So, I submitted there and it got in. And then they had a whole distribution deal. And then the next year I was like, oh, now I'm going to do that again. And I won the best film, and then that got distributed. So, and then I went into other things for a while.
Very cool, though. Excellent. Yeah. So that was writing and directing, and as well as acting with your friends and this crew.
I always got used to kind of. I mean, I was thinking of like, we mentioned along before this interview the independent movie Brothers McMullen that in the 90s. It made Ed Burns. Everyone knew who Edward Burns was, who was a filmmaker. It's like, because oh my God, he wrote it, he directed it, he stars in it, and so we all wanted to be that guy. So I think there's always a part of me that wanted to sort of be able to do that too. And I love films so much, Jeff. Like I'm sure you do too. That I just wanted to also know, like, how do you make them? What's this? How do you do this? I still feel like I'm trying to learn all those things. And as the technology grows, I just keep finding like, oh my God, I don't know anything about that. So I got to learn about that. And I find it kind of just interesting to just keep trying to grow as a person that way.
Yeah. And back then, I certainly remember when Rosenwallen and Clerks and even before that, She's Gotta Have It and some other indie smashes would come out. And there were theaters that would also support those little festival darlings, which was great. But I also remember the awareness that feature films are attainable now.
Yeah.
Right? The
independent filmmaker was there was a buzz about independent filmmaking for that, whatever 5 to 10 year range in the 90s where you and I were making films. Here's a little fun thing is that dropping names again. So there was another film that made it called Go Fish, and it was kind of like the first movie that sort of dealt with lesbians, and the woman who starred in it and wrote it, Guinevere Turner, is in Super Powerless. She's in that film, and I always knew who she was because she also wrote American Psycho, the Christian Bale cult favorite now. She wrote the screenplay for that, but I just remember seeing those films and thinking, oh, it's attainable if you just have if you can just. And we made a film. My brother wrote a script called The Scottish Tale, and I got to star in it. And we made it, and we got distribution at least through Hollywood Video, which was a bigger deal then. We got into many big festivals that now I would just die to get into, and so we were very, we got very close to getting, just almost to that next level. Because our film was very similar to Brothers McMullen and had a similar kind of vibe to it. But anyway, that was an exciting time for independent filmmakers.
It was. And now I'm going to be a jerk and say, your film was probably better than Brothers McMullen. Just something weird happened with the universe, I mean, it was pretty good.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
I think the Mike McGlone guy who played his brother was the standout.
Yeah, he was.
And yet somehow Ed Burns
and also super famous actress now.
Yes. Who?
Yeah, she's in Friday Night Lights and
Yes,
Connie
Britton.
Yeah, she was in that.
Oh, for sure.
So, but I think what he had, which I admire and I think deserves to be honored, is like someone who's just like, he knew himself. He knows who he is. He's like, I'm no BS. This is who I am. This is what you're getting. Yeah. He's a good looking guy. So,
just a charming dude.
Yeah, charming dude. He's got talent.
Screen.
He's gonna deliver. And I think there's merit to that for sure. I think that's like, and he did go on to do other things, and he's a fine actor and talent.
He did.
So.
And actually, amusingly, I just mean that like Rosenwallen strut. It was always interesting to me, like what broke through, because I saw so many films on the festival circuit in like the mid to late 90s that were exceptional and went nowhere. And I'm like, I wonder what I get it, like some things just click with the audience.
Yeah.
You certainly know why Reservoir Dogs took off, right? Because
right.
First time you saw that, you're like, oh my God. And like Swingers, I understood taking off.
Yeah. I mean, that was exciting. Those all got me really excited. And then Bottle Rocket
Bottle Rocket was wonderful.
Yeah, Wes Anderson's first. And you're like, if he, and then you kind of felt like, well, if he can do it, I can do it. Not that you didn't, they are great talents, but it was sort of like they had no money, they had no budget, and somehow they made something interesting out of like very little money, just with actors and an interesting story or a funny ability to edit, and and so it was really inspiring.
And I don't know, I guess I always associate things with music, but it was almost like, when 70s glam rock got too big, you had punk rock on the side. And I feel like whatever Hollywood was doing in the 90s had become so generic that the audiences were craving stuff that was a little
edgier.
Off-center.
Yeah, a little edgier.
Yeah, a little edgy and just, stop. I get it. The stand-up comedian and the actress out of their league are going to end up together at the end of the film. Like,
yeah, I've always wanted to write a piece about the 90s because it was such an interesting time in LA, and I had this time. It was a moment in my life where I was like mid 90s, and I was teaching high school. I had a published comic strip. I was in a play like that I was getting paid no money for, like, $10 a show or $15 a show, and then I would once in a while get to be on like one day on a big movie, or I got to work with Tracy Ullman once, and that was amazing. But I wish I could have told Tracy Ullman, like, I have to go teach high school after I finish this gig here. Like, that's my life. Like, I get to be with you, and then I have to go, teach 5 periods of English, and have everyone, all their students be like, I don't want to be here.
I just have to share with you a funny story from my youth, because I grew up in the Valley, and in 6th grade there was a substitute teacher who was known as the ultimate hard ass. He was he was so mean, and everyone knew he was mean. And my class got him one day, but he came in smiling, and apparently he'd just been cast on a TV show, and we got recess all day. and all the other teachers are coming up and congratulating him, and I wish I knew his name, because for all I know he ended up somebody huge, but he was an actor who was substitute teaching at LA Unified School District.
I wonder if it was this guy, because there was
this was like 1980.
Oh, okay. Because I ran into this and this is what I love about LA, is how you like run into these people. You're like, wait, you were super famous like 10 years ago. Why are you here with me? And I was substituting at a school, and I see the guy who starred in She's Gotta Have It, Spike Lee's film. And I was like, I must have seen that film like 4 or 5 times. And I was like, what, you're here? What are you doing here? And he's like, yeah, well,
I once got seated at the restaurant Earth, Wind, and Flower by a guy from a very famous Seinfeld episode. And you think to yourself, I guess this is, in LA, sometimes the maitre d' is going to be someone who's getting nice, chunky residual checks, but, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's humbling, but also kind of a beautiful thing. I just feel like, in some ways, if you don't get to be, whatever, the Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise, it's like, it's nice to have your anonymity. It's nice to be able to like just have your life, and sometimes have a little like excitement in your life. Like, oh, like I'm here. Oh, I get to show my film and be interviewed for my film here. But then, I go back to my normal life after that, and, drive my Prius home,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So obviously you stayed friends with Dwayne the whole time?
Well, we had a period of time, because as you like, it wasn't like you had instant access to people when we were growing up. So
that's true. You needed a phone call.
We
on a landline.
Yeah, I mean, like, you wouldn't even know someone's number. You wouldn't necessarily how to start. Like, it would take you research to find someone. Then, of course, with just the internet, and then just like, email for the first time that we were aware, that we experienced email for the first time. I got this email from Dwayne, and this was probably like right around like 1998, 99, 2000, somewhere in there. And he said, he knew me as Joe. He's like, Joe Polhemus, this is Dwayne Anderson. And I was like, oh my God, Dwayne, where have you been? And so he's like, I'm going to be in Los Angeles. Are you, and I was living there. So that reconnected us. And he was making films, and I was also, either, pursuing films, doing my directing. And so we got together, and he, he just said, like, I want to put you in every film I make. And, which he pretty closely, he did that. He did that for a long time, where I'd get a call out of the blue. He's like, can you come to Utah right now and do a part for me?
Yeah, because he ended up, he is one of the people who proves the Woody Allen joke is a lie. The those who can't do teach. He teaches film, and he's an amazing filmmaker.
Yeah.
By the way, at the festival we've had,
and the follow up to that is, and those who can't teach Jim.
Yes, that was what that is the follow up line. But we've had so many wonderful films from film school professors, and I'm like, I just love that they're proving that that's just the truth. Is a lot of people have talent, and they're just going to devote their life to teaching the next generation.
Yeah, I mean, when you get to be an quote unquote older filmmaker, I mean, you're not fooling yourself like, oh, I'm gonna everyone's going to be excited to have me, you're thinking, well, is there someone who they might get excited about that I can mentor? And that's what I'm doing now. I'm working with a guy named Peter Kangas that, has produced, and the next film we're doing, he directed, and it's based on his life. I sent you a little, trailer of we're putting that together. We're going to present that at this film festival to sort of talk about a proof of concept, because we have a feature film version that we wrote, a screenplay that the short film was based on, and it's about his life, and it's about growing up on the autism spectrum. So we're very excited to share that.
And growing up back when there was a lot less awareness.
Yeah, he was, so he's quite a bit younger than me. Thus I've sort of mentored him. But he got diagnosed in the 90s, and it was, you knew about Rain Man, but you didn't know much more than that in the zeitgeist, And so there was just a lot that he and his parents had to navigate around that, and just knowing what it is, knowing how, can you quote unquote cure it? Can you, so he was experiencing all of that. Meanwhile, trying to live a very, what we would call neurotypical life, like trying to fit into that world when you are, basically not only labeled as different, but feel different. So it's a really interesting, engaging film. We're really excited about it. The short film you'll get to, we will be submitting it to you in the future to see too.
Excellent. Yeah. And you sent me the trailer, and it looks very compelling. And yeah, it has been a bit of a blessing actually to be involved in film festivals for the last 11 years, because there really has been, I don't know if you'd call it a movement, but maybe it's our whole society is more open to neurodivergence. And, I'm actually proud to say, you probably don't know this, that the bumper at Sherman Oaks Film Festival with the animated bumper that says "Welcome to the Sherman Oaks Film Festival," and it's wombats in a movie theater.
Yeah,
that was actually made by a school in Sherman Oaks for young people aged 18 to 25 on the autism spectrum. After they graduate high school, it's an animation school that teaches them digital animation.
Wow.
And they actually do a lot of jobs for Hollywood, like credits and things, because also that neurodivergent, as they say, it's called Exceptional Minds. I'm happy to promote Exceptional Minds.
Yeah.
And it's, their minds are exceptional for like detail-oriented things. So I think even they did Marvel movie credits.
Yeah, I was invited to a party they had at Disney. It was really fun and so cool. And yeah, the parents and the students were there, and they had their work on display. And I worked with one person who's highly involved with that program, her son, in a play, and he is out, being on the spectrum, and he was terrific in the part, and it was really good. We did it in the Bay Area, but I know of that very program.
That's so cool. You know of that school, yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool that you use them for your.
Yeah, well, they approached us when we still had a theater in Sherman Oaks that we could use, and so we would actually show works from the students. We did a little Exceptional Minds, block.
Yeah.
And then they said, we'd love to make you I call it a bumper. I think they called it like a something show rules or something. I forget, they had a term for it. I can't remember. But it was just the most fun process to go there a couple times and meet with the students and they voiced it themselves. They did all the work themselves. It was really just such a rewarding experience to be supportive of young artists.
Yeah, what we're trying to do, as I showed you in the trailer, is we're trying to have inclusive crews and have representation on film too. I think people now, it's a little limited in that you probably have to tell a story about someone on the spectrum for people to show interest in it, but our ultimate goal is you could do any genre and you're just using people as you would anyone, like as professionals that can make something work. But we have, Peter and I met at a film school for adults with disabilities. And, my experience on there was just that the crews worked really well. They could be super professional, and never, you never had an issue with going behind, getting behind, going over budget or your schedule is working out, and they were enthusiastic, and the feeling, the vibe was so positive, and the community, boy, I'm getting a little tongue tied. Just that they worked really well together, and there was a really nice feeling on the set. It didn't feel aggro. It didn't feel like we're getting behind, people yelling. It was kind of like the Tom Hanks in A League of Their Own, where it's like, you don't. Oh no, I'm just trying to hit the ball a little better, okay? Okay. That was the vibe. Like you're going to be on your best behavior, and it works like a dream, and everyone feels really. I don't know. I just think it's a kind of amazing thing. I think it could really have an effect on crews in the future if people get more and more open to it.
That is wonderful, and there's been a nice movement as of late to share with you. Actually, we've had several films come through written and directed by people on the spectrum, awesome. Including last year's at Filmvasion Los Angeles last year, a film called a young actress on the spectrum who. It was actually her second film that we'd shown, like a couple of years earlier. We'd shown her first film. I think it was Glory and Justice, but where her dad was a supervillain who wouldn't get off the couch, and she was yelling at him.
That sounds great.
Bella Zoe Martinez, and her second film was about auditioning as someone on the spectrum, and it was called Once More Like Rain Man.
I saw the preview for that. Yeah, that looked really good.
Yeah,
I know that was and I know she had someone kind of famous on that.
Joe Mantegna was in it.
Okay, so she had a lot of famous.
Her dad was played by the young man who played Badger on Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Which is funny because we had Skinny Pete at our festival once. So we've had a lot of peripheral characters from Breaking Bad.
Ponsolt? James Ponsolt? I don't know.
Probably.
Anyway, I know exactly, because we saw the preview, like, oh, this is interesting. What are these people doing? So I have seen the preview for that film.
Yeah, I was pissed off at the Academy that it didn't make the top 20 or top, I might be guilty of the thing where I go to the screening of the Oscar-nominated live-action shorts, and I go,
me too.
Okay, there's 2 or 3 wonderful films here, and 2 or 3 that we had better films at the festival.
I know that must be frustrating.
Didn't have them, but I know it's about money. I know it's about hiring a PR agent who focuses solely on Oscar voters.
Yeah, I saw. I've seen a couple of those films where they make the short list, and then they don't get to the nomination. But
because you have to pay $50,000 to $75,000 to a PR agent who has the email address of every Oscar voter and sends them a message saying, "Watch the film, please. Watch the film. I highly recommend you watch this film." So not to put down the film. By the way, I love many of those films. I thought Jane Austen's period drama was one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time.
So funny.
And I love the one from France where slaps were currency.
Yeah, that was
2 people exchanging saliva, I believe.
Yeah, so the following that, I think they had their premiere at we were at another festival and they were there too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I feel like, we were close. We were adjacent.
You were Oscar adjacent. And they shared the Oscar.
That was amazing.
With the
Singers.
The veteran film, right? The Singers. Yeah.
Which I like too. I like that.
Which is very good. They were all very good, but I was kind of bummed that Once More Like Rain Man didn't get in. What can you say?
Yeah, I want to see that. Maybe you can show me how to see that one.
I will do the right thing and email Zoe and her mom saying, "Hey, can I just give the link?" But I'm sure they'll let you.
Yeah, I want to show them. Link. I want to get in touch with them because we're trying to do similar things, and maybe we get.
I should.
Yeah,
absolutely. Oh my God! Well,
they sat where you're sitting. Film.
Yeah. They sat where you're sitting, and it was a wonderful interview.
Okay, you got to make the connection.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. I'm always happy to That's what it's about. I mean, that's what our two festivals are about, is creating community. That's why we have an alumni jury, so that alumni stay involved and all that.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, well, we kind of jumped right over the falling, I guess. But that's because in a way you are you've been at this long enough that you're always focused on the next one.
Yeah, I gotta smoke my cigarette here. Like, yeah, I've been pounding the pavement for a long time.
No, it's just, but you have quite a bit. Actually, did you say the title of the next one? The short?
It's called Evergreen and the Effing Spectrum.
Evergreen and the Effing Spectrum.
Yeah, and it's provocative for a reason. It's to sort of we poke a little fun at Forrest Gump. Like, Evergreen is a character that's like Forrest Gump. And there's a young man watching it saying, is that how people see me? That's the perspective of who I am. I'm not nothing like that. And sort of trying to show the difference between, our kind of sometimes precious, Hollywoodized versions of having a disability to like the reality of the day-to-day life of like, well, and I got to still, deal with my day and I have to go to therapy and, Forrest Gump doesn't have to go to therapy, anyway, it's just this, it's a nice contrast and done with humor, but also very poignant and showing real moments too. So,
yeah. And you're right. I mean, the director is telling their own story.
Yeah.
Which means it's authentic. Peter's telling an authentic story, right? Because we were often obviously that's the joke of Once More Like Rain Man is Hollywood's perception of neurodivergence is a very Hollywood version of it.
Yeah.
So it's time for people to tell their own stories.
Right. And so, and then in our version, like that one, the actor who's playing the person on the spectrum is on the spectrum. And even the guy who's playing Evergreen, who's like the Forrest Gump character, he's on the spectrum. But the cool thing is that he has to play the celebrity who plays that part too. So he plays the sort of, guy with the, Southern accent like this. And then we had him do a British accent for the celebrity who's playing him. And he pulled it off flawlessly. And then the other kind of, it's just very, the whole thing makes me melt because it's like one of the actor's actual parents are playing, one of them's playing his father and the other one is, plays the father of the main character. And then the guy who plays Evergreen, his mom plays his mom in the film. So, we have, their support in there too. And they're just fine actors, that they won the roles, but it was just kind of beautiful to put them all in this piece together and just kind of walk the walk, like we have an inclusive crew. The director is on the spectrum. He co-wrote it with me. And one of our producers is also on the spectrum. So we were really just trying to walk the walk and also try to prove that like you can do this. This is not going to set you back. This is only going to make it a better film and more authentic.
Absolutely. And I have no doubt, I actually do still kind of believe in humanity. and we really do, people respond to genuineness, to authenticity. Authenticity, anytime, right? Heck, that's even why like a film like Nomadland blew up. Because it was actually an authentic telling of a story. Even if most of us don't know people who live this life, it was an authentic telling. Even though I know a lot of people called it overrated and things, like I still think like it showed us something we don't always get to see, and it did it authentically. Which,
I liked it a lot.
Yeah,
and put that director on the map. And Frances McDormand's always pretty fantastic.
Kind of hard not to win an Oscar with her in your film. She just like elevates. She is the tide that lifts every boat within a mile of her.
But I liked how they put, as they say, quote unquote, real people in it. Because I always think when they say real people, it's probably that person has been an actor. They're just not known, but still, I love that they honored that. The other little tidbit is, Frances McDormand put one of her best friends in one of the roles as her best friend. That friend passed away, unfortunately, but she was a big deal at ACT. She ran the program there and was a wonderful actress in herself. So there was something really beautiful to me watching it because I knew that story, and I knew that that was probably the last thing they got to do together. But I don't know, just those kind of authentic, because you have your best friend playing your best friend. I think those things really connect, and you can feel it on the screen.
Oh, I love that stuff. I admit, yeah. Maybe we appreciate sincerity more as we, but yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, that's wonderful.
The Falling. Should we talk about that?
We can talk about The Falling. I will also mention.
Are we done?
I'll include. I will absolutely. I'll just say that everybody listening, go to the show notes. There will be a link to Evergreen and the effing Spectrum. We'll put. We can, if you want, we have a link to the trailer that you made.
Oh yeah, I wanted a little update because I showed you like the very first version of it, and now we've put our titles on there and stuff.
Oh, cool!
So I'll give you a little updated version.
That is one of the rad things about this new the technology is you can just keep updating whatever's at that link, right? You can just keep replacing.
Perfect.
Yeah, so absolutely. So we'll have that, and then so The Falling came together. I mean, we're almost out of time, but we should talk about The Falling a little more. Besides the fact that I think it's great, and you did a wonderful job with it.
Yeah, no, I think my little buzz, which who cares with a short film, but I always say like it's Vertigo meets Star Trek, which is I think kind of sums it up, because it's and just the thing I realized I did talk about it like just that it's about therapy in the future.
Therapy, and that there's some killer plot twists that I can't mention because I wouldn't want to. Although I have to admit, this is the high praise of the writing that you did, which is it's better on multiple viewings. Like,
cool.
So, because that is one of the, right, I think we talked about briefly, I don't know if it was when we were recording or not, of what it was like having a video store and like having VHS and actually seeing the same movie a couple times so you really get to know it.
Yeah.
And The Falling is absolutely a film that when you watch it again, because you well, go ahead, talk about writing it a bit, because besides that you started with therapy and how the future and technology, how it'll be, but the twist, obviously it's such a well plotted film. I'm always wondering if it took some engineering to finally work out the architecture of that building, because the twists and turns, and particularly what happens with the characters and how the story is revealed.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was mentioning to you off the podcast, but that when it first started, I wanted people to think they were in now, that it was just like, oh, we're just seeing a guy who's doing better help, like a therapist and a patient, and so I wrote it that way where until he mentions like a device, you don't know it's in the future. So that kind of got me to play with the idea of doing a little slow burn, kind of setting up like, oh, who are these people? And also, in general, I like to cut into the middle of a scene, like start a scene in the middle of the scene. But when you have, there's a good when you can justify them giving exposition and saying who they are. It's so like as the writer, it's always fun. Like, oh, I've justified them telling each other their names and telling them why they're here and stuff, because it's their first session. So you're kind of always like patting yourself on the back as a writer, like, oh, I figured out how to get all that information.
I got it in without it feeling forced.
Yeah, forced, right. And then I think it's really fun to sort of leave, like what I often find when I'm writing, like what can I leave out that can be revealed later? And with them, like the characters know something, but the audience doesn't. So it's always a little bit of like, oh, you kind of reminding yourself, trying to put yourself in the audience's shoes, like what have I revealed that they don't know yet? Because when you're writing, it's all there for you, so you're thinking of the ending already. I will say that the very bump at the end was an afterthought. It came the twist at the very, very end, which worked like a dream. Like when I shared it with Dwayne, he's like, yes, that was not in the original script. But then now I can't imagine it without that little twist at the end, the very last line, So I love how there's well, also, I think film is such a collaboration. I mean, just you can, you see these names, these directors, and yeah, they can be, dictators on the set, but they are being helped by so many incredibly visionary people along the way who are crafting it with them. And, this is absolutely no exception. I heavily relied on getting the feedback from people like Dwayne and Peter, when we got to the point where we know we're going to make it, like, let me trim this out, Dwayne's like, this scene isn't working, what about this? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's better, so then writing that in. So, that's the so that was the evolution. Also cheapness. Like, I think my original thing is that the trauma was something that was more sci-fi, but we were like, we can't afford that. So we're like, let's just make it a argument between a father and a son. And then what was amazing was the two actors, we just gave them a scenario. They didn't have any scripted dialogue. They just had a scenario. And so I talked it through with him, like, this is what's happening. This is like this future world. And they just started like improvising based on the scenario. And they were so good that it just felt very real and authentic and worked so much better and had much more depth to it than if we had done my original thing, which is sort of like a, some war in the future going on where he falls into a pit, and I was like, we were going to try to do that, but then we're like, I think it could be much easier if we do it this way.
Right. Where actually this will upset. Well, no one will know who I'm talking about. No, some jurors and I.
Yeah.
We have so I just want to praise that. The following deals with trauma.
Yeah.
And trauma is something that is almost epidemic in modern culture.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of films submitted that jurors, I keep getting emails or texts from jurors going, how much fucking trauma porn am I going to have to watch this year? because if there's nothing to the film but trauma, it's
hard.
It's not actually storytelling.
Yeah,
it's just giving
therapy.
Me a traumatic moment.
It's
and it was
actually
therapy for them to make it.
Yeah.
But it's not therapy to watch it, and it's not enlightening to watch.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily good filmmaking. Now, there are wonderful films that are the exception to this, that they make. They create a wonderful story about trauma that doesn't, like in York, and I don't know if obviously you intended to make it about therapy, but therapy obviously implies the patient had some trauma or they wouldn't be in therapy. But I just want to say that it's a wonderful way to also show how human beings need to deal with trauma and need to seek help, which, without being preachy, I mean, you got that going for The Falling too.
Yeah, I feel that, I don't know where therapy has played a role in your life, but it's definitely been in my life, Jeff. And so that's just like right what you know. So I know a little bit about therapy. Then I have I'm a sci-fi nerd too. Like, I mean, not super duper, but like Comic-Con fan, like that. I'm not that big of a, but I love those stories. And so I love this idea of like, what is deja vu? Like, what is that? That also compelled the story. Like, what does it mean if you have deja vu? Like, is there something to that? What is it? And so I thought, like, well, what if someone actually could go in and look at something like that,
Yeah.
So,
and who knows, maybe someday, well, anyway,
maybe we'll find out.
Maybe I don't know. Yeah, I mean, we still literally, the most consciousness is still one of the great mysteries of the universe. We understand way more about the universe and astronomy and astrophysics than we do about, ask any scientist what creates human consciousness, and the answer is we don't know. There's electrons whizzing around brain tissue, and for some reason we are human beings. It's
I mean,
bizarre.
I feel like we're
bizarre.
just kind of a little bit, we're flawed, right? And we're not perfect. And I feel that in the future, if we keep going in this AI world, I feel there's going to be this time where people are like, it's flawed. Oh, I'll pay, millions of dollars for that. Oh, it's because it's got a flaw in it, because I think that's what makes us, that's the beauty of humanity, I think, is not being robots, not being perfect. Not being AI.
When I was young and romantic, I always thought, actually, you fall in love with someone based on their flaws, not their perfections.
Yeah.
It's like...
And also, I feel that, I think you've been married for a while. I've been married for a while. And it's like the thing, like you have this balance where the thing you love about the person can also be the very thing you're annoyed with, and then the reverse, like you're annoyed with it. But then sometimes you're just like, oh, God, that's what I love about you.
Especially if you have kids and then you, and then your partner says, I can't believe the kid did this. And then you just bite your tongue and go, that's what you do every day. It annoys you that your daughter's just like, oh, okay, too much revealed. I should have stopped earlier. All right, anything else we should mention, or?
No, just that, I'm working with Peter. We're doing the Spectrum Motion Pictures. We're trying to do this inclusive thing. And we've got, more films coming down the pipeline. And
people, someday we'll have a link in the show notes to watch The Falling, but people can probably... You intend to release it on yow.tv?
Yeah, it'll be on yow.tv sometime in the near future. Don't exactly know when it's coming out, but that's where you can find it very soon.
That's where it'll be, so people can watch it there. And that is actually, I guess I'll share that yow.tv last year was a sponsor of both Film Invasion Los Angeles and Sherman Oaks Film Festival. So they're really nice people too. Their heart really in the right place. They really believe in indie film.
Jeff, thank you so much for the interview. Thank you for what you do. It's just a pleasure to be on this, and also that you do this for all these filmmakers and that you run these festivals that showcase that and your desire for that. And it was so fun to hear about your past filmmaking, because I completely have great respect for when you talk about the films you made, I was like, yes, you get it, and you have done it. You've proved yourself.
It proves, yeah, thank you. I should just say thank you because I was the person who downplayed compliments for 50 plus years. And somewhere around 50, I think I learned, no, if someone pays you a compliment, thank them.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But I just hedged it. I hedged it with
you
that.
You got both.
I got in both. But thank you. Yeah, absolutely. And, well, I'll just wrap us up so that we can wrap up this podcast. And then we'll record the next one where people will get to hear you answer the Discover Indie Film 4 questions, which means we'll get to know Josiah's 3 favorites. Not the only three favorite films, an underrated film, an overrated film, and a lesser known film that people should seek out. Just a fun way to talk about cinema, because that's why we're here, right? I gotta admit, it would amaze me if I ever met a filmmaker who was like, I don't really like movies. But then I'll do my last jerky joke, which is, I do know the filmmakers who don't really like movies because they submit films to the festival, and before the film starts, I see their name 11 times. And I know, okay, you don't love film. You just want us to know your name. Because, a Jeff Howard production of a Jeff Howard film written by Jeff Howard, directed by Jeff Howard, produced by Jeff. I'm like, okay, that Jeff Howard's heart is not in the right place. I've yet to be proven wrong. But who knows? Maybe someday someone will do that as a joke and then actually have a killer movie afterwards. But
I saw one film where they had like a 30-second film, and then they had 2 minutes of credits. It was really funny. It was quite funny.
Oh my goodness. I'll tell you something funny after I finish this wrap up and I hit stop, but I certainly can't say it while we're recording. So anyway, thank you, Josiah.
Thank you, Jeff.
Pleasure to have you here.
Yeah.
And pleasure to meet you. And thank you for coming out to the festival and supporting your fellow filmmakers and being there. It always means a lot. For everyone listening, if you want to learn more about this podcast, just go to discoverindiefilm.com. On social media, it's always at DIFWins. I quit social media like a year and a half ago. My life's a little better without it. But my wonderful podcast producer, Karina, does check it. So if you write to this podcast on any of the formats, any of the social media platforms. That's what it is. It's at DIF Wins. As far as discoverindiefilm.com goes, if you want to learn about the festivals, go to discoverindiefilm.org. That's the nonprofit that runs both Sherman Oaks Film Festival and Film Invasion Los Angeles, both ranked in the top 100 best reviewed festivals worldwide out of 14,000. That's kind of fun.
Wow.
It's a fun brag.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's, our t-shirts say the festival that gives a shit. So people noticed, which is wonderful because that's based on reviews from filmmakers. And those two festivals, I call them sister festivals. Well, this year they got a cousin. Their cousin was born in Lima, Peru. Film Invasion Lima launched this year.
Wow.
And we had a wonderful I didn't make it down this year, but next year we're actually holding it Valentine's Day weekend, which is also President's Day weekend. So hopefully more of us can make it down because we had it like the second weekend of January this year. And, Sherman Oaks is like early December. Then come the holidays. Then comes New Year's. I'm like, I just, we just have the holidays, man. I can't afford a plane ticket. and staying overnight in Panama City was the plane ticket I could afford. So I stayed home, but hopefully next year I'll be. But I actually have met with some people who were down in Lima, and they had an amazing time, and they showed their films, and it was rad.
Nice.
In fact, the podcast producer I mentioned, Karina's film was in it.
Woo.
Lou. She won an award for Lou, which had been at Sherman Oaks Film Festival many years ago, but Lima opened its doors, and I was not on that jury, so I was very proud of Karina that she got in there and won an award.
Yeah.
Way to go. Film Invasion Lima. All right. Thank you again.
Yeah.
And thank you everyone for listening.